Very, very good morning to all of you. Welcome back. I hope you guys are doing good. So, in the last two sessions, I discussed the concepts of standard costing. In fact, in the last few sessions, I finished standard costing and marginal costing. So, I hope you guys were able to solve the questions of study material and past practice manual. So, today I'll be taking service costing, which we were not. I was not being able to take. So the session is rescheduled for today. So I'll be starting with service costing and I'll be finishing service costing. So without wasting time, now let's start with service costing. So now, when talking about service costing, it's a method of costing. It's a part of method of costing. See, just like earlier, we used to study contract costing. That is for the persons who are into construction. We were using contract costing. Thereafter, job costing, if we want to calculate the cost of a job. Thereafter, we discussed process costing also, wherein if a particular product need two or more than two processes before being converted into final product, we used to actually use process costing. Now, when talking about service costing, as I said, it's a method of costing. So this method of costing is used by those companies who are into service sector. I repeat again, the name itself says service costing. So this method of costing is used by those companies who are into service industries. We can say that education institutions, we can say hotels, transportation industry, hospitals, we can say toll tax, the agencies who are collecting tolls and all. Further, we can say the IT companies, they are all into provision of service. So they uses service costing to calculate the cost of service. The cost to the company. So today we are starting with service costing. What is service costing? It's a method of costing used by those companies who are into service sector. Now, this chapter is more or less practical. I'll be covering most of the practical questions in this chapter. So let's start. Now, I have already covered this chapter in detail in previous sessions. So I'll be giving you a brief about what all will be. I'll be giving you a brief about the concept. The rest in detail I have already discussed in the previous batch. So when talking about service costing, as I said, it's a method of costing used by the companies who are into service sector. So let's start with transportation industry first. Okay, before starting with transportation industry, see what we generally do in service industry, that we do calculate the total cost divided by the number of units in terms of service. So herein, when talking about the units, see there are two terms what we'll be using. That is single unit and composite unit. As I said, that we do calculate the total cost divided by units in terms of service. So the units can be single unit also or composite units also. So let's say if it is a transportation industry, let's say if it is a transport industry, the unit can be what? Kilometers, the number of kilometers. It can be number of miles also. That is, we do calculate the total cost divided by number of miles, we will get the cost per mile. So the miles can be the units. We can see number of tons also. Number of passengers also can be the units. But when talking about the composite unit, it will be two units together. That is passenger kilometer, or we can say ton miles, or we can say ton kilometer. Further, when talking about, we can say hotel industry. When talking about hotel industry, one second, guys. Hotel industry, it can be number of rooms or number of days or number of guests can be also be there, but let's write. So number of rooms or number of days, but when talking about composite unit, it can be number of room days. When talking about hospital industry also, it can be number of patient, it can be number of guests, sorry, number of beds. Further, in composite unit, it will be number of patient beds. So these are the few illustrative points what I have mentioned. So in single unit, we will be using only one base, but in composite unit, we'll be using two bases. The complete list is given in the study material. So this is just an illustrative list. Those who want to copy this part can please copy. I repeat again for the students who have joined a bit late, the service sector costing is a method of costing used by the companies who are into service sector to calculate the cost per unit. When talking about the number of units, that is the total cost divided by unit, we do get the cost per unit. So when talking about the number of units, it can be a single unit, it can be a composite unit. In single unit, we will be using only one as one base, and in composite unit, we'll be using two bases. So those who want to copy this part can please copy. So herein we'll be discussing few questions on transportation industry, hotel industry, hospital industry, and many more. So it's only one session is allocated for this chapter. So I'll be giving you a brief about the major important part. See, most of the time examiner do ask question on transportation industry. So it's a bit trickier also. So I'll be covering most of in the most of the session, I'll be covering the question more on transportation industry, and we'll try to cover the other questions also. So now when talking about transportation industry, when talking about transportation industry, the composite unit can be calculated using two ways. When talking about transportation industry also, the composite unit can be calculated using two ways. That is absolute and commercial. Absolute and commercial. So when talking about absolute, it uses the weighted average approach. And when talking about commercial, it uses simple average approach. When talking about commercial, it uses simple average approach. So let me discuss this point. With the help of one example that is given in the study material. So I request you guys to please open your study material. I'll be discussing illustration number 1 from study material. So, good morning, Kiran. Good morning, Komal. Good morning, Kiran Kumar. Good morning, Sushil. Good morning, Khushi. Very good morning, Sayanto. I request you guys to please open your study material. I'll be discussing illustration number 1, page number 12.9. So let's start with illustration number 1, page number 12.9. A lorry starts with a load of 20 metric tons of goods from station A. It unloads 8 metric ton in station B and balance goods in station C. It reaches station A with a load of 16 metric tons loaded at station C. The distance between A to B, B to C, C to A are 80, 120 and 160 kilometers respectively. Compute absolute metric ton kilometers and commercial metric ton kilometers. So when talking about this absolute method, see, let's start with this question, illustration number 1. See, a lorry starts with the 20 metric tons of goods from station A. So there is a station A. The lorry starts with 20 metric tons. It unloads 8 metric ton in station B. So from A, it is going to B. From B, it is going to C. So it starts with 20 metric tons from station A. So it means what? At station A, 20 metric tons were loaded. And from A to B, the metric ton traveled is how much? 20 metric tons. Total 20 metric tons traveled from A to B. But it is given that 8 metric tons, see, it is given that it unload 8 metric ton in station B. So out of 20, 8 were unloaded at station B. So the total metric tons that are traveling from B to C is only 12. And in the return journey, they are going directly from C to A. And it is given that it reaches station A with a load of 16 metric tons loaded at station C in the return journey. So from C to A, total 16 metric tons are traveling. Further, when talking about A to B, B to C and C to A, it is 80, 120 and 160 kilometers. 80 and 160. So whenever you see this type of question, loading, unloading, kilometers, better to prepare this table. We are just presenting the question in a diagrammatic form. मैंने कोई solution नहीं लिखा है अभी तक. I'm just writing the question in a diagrammatical form. See, as I discussed in joint byproduct also, when you see a lengthy question, just convert it into a diagram. So you'll be able to solve the question very easily. So try to simplify the question before writing the answer. That is the key. So herein now my master chart is ready. Now the question is asking me to calculate weighted average ton kilometer. Very simple. See, from A to B, how many kilometers traveled? 80 kilometers. With how many metric tons? 20 metric tons. From B to C, how much is the distance? 120 kilometers. How much metric tons? 12 metric tons. Again, from C to A also, 160 kilometers and 16 metric tons. So we are just calculating the weighted average of metric tons and kilometers. So what will be the ton kilometer? 5,610 kilometers. So this is the way we will be using, we'll be calculating the 10 kilometer using this absolute approach, or we can say weighted average approach. Now, now when talking about this simple average, it's relatively easy. It says how many metric tons traveled on an average 20 plus 12 plus 16. So how many metric tons? 20 from A to B, 12 from B to C, and from C to A 16 divided by 3. On an average, how many metric tons traveled? 20 plus 12 plus 16 divided by 3. That is 16 metric tons traveled on an average for how much distance? 80 plus 120 plus 160. 80 plus 120 plus 160. So 16 into total kilometers, that is 200 into 160. So this will be 5760 ton kilometers. So simple average, what you have to do, you have to simply calculate the average tons traveled into the total distance. That is the average tons traveled, that is 20 from A to B, 12 from B to C, and from C to A 16. So 20 plus 12 plus 16 divided by 3 into the total kilometers, into the, so we can say average tons into total kilometers. So this is the way. Now, when talking about from examination point of view, if the question is silent, you have to use only this approach. This is to be used only when asked. I repeat again, this is to be used only when asked. But yes, if the question is silent, we have to always use weighted average approach. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can please post your query. Further, I request you guys to please copy this explanation. Good morning, Mr. Kiran Kumar. Good morning, Miss Nagma. Good morning, Preeti. Further, I request you guys to please download the material what I have provided over the portal. I'll be discussing example number 2 from the material. I'm sharing the screen for your reference. So I'll be discussing example number 2 from my material. So let's start with example number 2. You are required to calculate the total passenger kilometer from the following information. The total number of buses are 6. The number of days operating in a month is 25. Trips made by each bus per day is 8. Distance covered one side is 20 kilometers. Capacity of the bus is 40 passengers, and normally 80% of the capacity is utilized. You are required to calculate the number of passenger kilometers. I repeat again, I request you guys to please take the screenshot. Those who have not downloaded the material, please take the screenshot. So let's start with example number 2 from my material. So we are required to calculate the total passenger kilometer from the following information. Now herein in this case, we'll be calculating the kilometers also and passenger kilometers also. And passenger kilometers. So herein it is saying that the one-way distance is 20 kilometers. So it means what? 20 kilometers onward and 20 kilometers return journey. So in aggregate, we can say total the distance traveled is 40 kilometers. So in one way, in round trip, the bus is traveling for 40 kilometers. For how many times in a day? Trip made by each bus per day is 8. So it means on an average, the bus is running 8 times a day for 40 kilometers. Further, the number of days operating in a month is 25. So 25 for 25 days they are operating in a month, and the total number of buses are 6. So this is the data for a month, that is 40 kilometers. A bus is traveling 8 times in a day. So total distance traveled is how much? 40 into 8, that is 320 kilometers in a day. So for 25 days in a month we will get, and for 6 buses we will get the total kilometers. So here we'll get the total number of kilometers 48,000. Now, when talking about the calculation of passenger kilometers, again the same approach. 20 kilometers one way with the number of passengers. Here we have to consider the passengers as well as kilometer. So here in the seating capacity of the bus is 40 passenger and the normal occupancy is 80%. So 20 kilometers they are traveling with 32 passengers. And in return journey also, 20 kilometers they are traveling with 32 passengers. Again, 8 times in a day into 25 days in a month into 6 buses. So this will be 15 lakh. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your queries. I have written 10 kilometers only, Kiran Shukla. In the first illustration, I have written 10 kilometers only. Further, I request you guys to copy the solution. If you have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your queries. Now, till now in transportation industry, we have discussed how to calculate ton kilometers or passenger kilometers or kilometers. Now, when talking about the full-fledged question, we have to calculate the total cost divided by either passenger kilometer or ton kilometers or kilometers, whatever the question is asking. Now, the point is how to prepare the full-fledged cost statement. So, when talking about transportation industry, we have to divide all the cost in three parts. When talking about transportation industry, we have to divide all the cost in three parts. That is fixed oblique standing cost, variable oblique running cost, and the last one is maintenance cost. The total of these three will be my total cost divided by units. It can be either single unit or it can be composite unit. So in short, what I want to say is that when talking about service costing in transportation industry, we have to categorize the cost in three parts, that is fixed oblique standing cost, variable oblique running cost, and the third one is maintenance cost. Those who want to copy this part can please copy. Now I'll be discussing illustration number 3 from study materials. I request you guys to please refer illustration number 3 of study material. I'm discussing illustration number 3 of study material. So ABC Transport Company has given a route of 40 km long to run a bus. I'm discussing illustration number 3 of study material, guys. So ABC Transport Company has given a route of 40 kilometers long to run a bus. The bus cost the company a sum of rupees 10 lakh. It has been insured at the rate of 3% per annum. Further, the annual tax amounts to rupees 20,000. The garage rent per month is 20,000. Further, the annual repairs are 2 lakh 4,000. Will go in maintenance cost. The bus is likely to last for 2.5 years. So I think they're talking about depreciation. The driver's salary will be 30,000 per month and the conductor salary will be 25,000 per month. In addition to 10% of the takings as commission to be shared by driver and conductor equally. So when talking about the takings, they are talking about the revenue. The cost of stationery will be 1,000 per month and the management cum accountant salary is 17,000 per month. Petrol and oil will be 500 per 100 kilometers. So we have to first calculate the number of kilometers. Thereafter only we will calculate the petrol and oil cost. Thereafter we'll be able to, in fact. The bus will make 3 up and down trips carrying on an average 40 passengers on each trip. So it's like there are 3 round trips in a day. The bus will run on an average for 25 days in a month. Assuming 15% profit on takings, it means 15% profit on revenue, or we can say 15% profit on sales. You are required to calculate the bus fare to be charged per passenger per kilometer. So we are required to calculate the fare to be charged per passenger per kilometer. It means they're talking us to calculate the fare per passenger kilometer. So here in the passenger kilometer is a composite unit, that is the passenger plus the kilometers. So anyways, so let's start with cost sheet, or we can say cost statement. So let's start. We'll write one by one each and every item. That is the cost of the bus is 10 lakh. See here in the useful life of bus is given, that is 2.5 years. So we can easily calculate the depreciation also. So 10 lakh divided by 2.5, we will get the depreciation amount. So the per year depreciation will be 4 lakh rupees. Further, it has been given that it has been insured at the rate of 3% per annum. Into 3%. So this will be 30,000. Further, it is given that the annual tax amounting to rupees 20,000. Further, the garage rent is 20,000 per month. Annual repairs are 2,04,000. So this repair cost will go in maintenance cost. Annual repairs are 2,04,000. See, further, the driver and conductor salary is given. So we will take the fixed salary in standing cost and the commission in the variable cost. So herein, one second, the driver and conductor salary is 30,000 and 25,000 per month. Further, the cost of stationery is 1,000 per month. The cost of stationery will be 1,000 per month. Further, the manager cum accountant salary is 17,000 per month. So this will be 2,04,000. Now, I think we are done with all the fixed cost. I think nothing is left out. We'll write it as total A. Now let's proceed further. We'll calculate the total later on. See, petrol and oil will be 500 per 100 kilometers. So now we have to calculate the number of kilometers. So herein, when talking about the distance traveled, it is given that the ABC Transport Company has given a route of 40-kilometer long to run a bus. So 40 kilometers long route to run a bus. So 40 kilometers one way. So in return journey also 40 kilometers. Into how many times in a day? 3 round trips in a day. Into the number of days in a month, it is given 25 days in a month. into 12 months in a year. So we'll get 72,000 kilometers. So we'll get 72,000 kilometers. Now we can easily calculate the petrol and oil cost. It is rupees 500 for every 100 kilometers. Rupees 500 for every 100 kilometers. So total 72,000 kilometers. For every 100 kilometers, we do spend 500 rupees. So the total petrol cost will be 3,60,000. Further, we have to calculate the driver and conductor commission also. So this is how we will get the total B. And I think there are no more variable and maintenance cost. So this 2,04,000 will be my total C. So the total cost will be A plus B plus C. Now this information is missing, that is the driver and the conductor commission. If you guys have any doubts till now, you guys can first post your query, then I'll proceed further with the calculation of revenue and everything. So if you guys have any doubts till now, then you guys can please post your queries. Let me check, Nagma. Manish sir, are you there? The board is visible clearly. The letter are big enough, na? Okay, fine. What? Uh-huh. So I suggest everyone to see this lecture on 720, right? Yes? Okay, fine. So Karthik, I suggest you to please view this lecture with 720 pixels. Further, I suggest you to use laptop for viewing the lecture. So now let's calculate this total A we have. We need to calculate these two. So 4 lakh. So this is 15,66,000. This is 360 we have. This is 2,04,000 we have. So now we need to calculate the total cost, the profit, and the revenue. So profit and revenue. So now we have the total fixed cost plus 3,60,000 plus 2,04,000. This is the total cost excluding commission. So now total cost excluding commission we have is 15,66,000 plus 360 plus 2,04,000. So 21,30,000. In this we have to add commission plus profit to get the total revenue. Now see, herein it is given that the commission of driver and conductor is the commission and driver of the total commission of driver and conductor is how much? 10% of the total takings. So let's assume that the total takings be 100. Let's assume that the total takings be 100. So my commission will be how much? 10. If it is 100%, then this will be 10% of 100. Further, it is given that the profit is 15% of the total takings. So my profit is 15% of the total taking. So out of 100, 15% is my profit, 10% is my commission. So this cost excluding commission will be how much? 75%. So this cost will be 75% of the total revenue. So therefore my total revenue will be how much? 21,30,000. It is equals to 75. This 21,30,000 is equals to 75. So how much will be 100? So the total revenue will be 28,40,000. The total revenue will be 28,40,000. So I have calculated the total revenue, that is 28,40,000. Further, my profit will be 15% of 28,40,000. So this will be 4,26,000. So my profit will be 4,26,000. So my remaining cost will be 24,14,000. So my total cost will be 24,14,000. Further, commission will be 28,40,000 into 10%, that is 2,84,000. This is to be shared by driver and conductor equally. So it means the commission for the driver will be 1,42,000 and for conductor also 1,42,000. So variable cost will be 6,44,000. So we can tally the total also. 15,66,000 plus 6,44,000 plus 2,04,000 will get 24,14,000. This is my profit and this is my revenue. So this is how you have to calculate the revenue. If you have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your queries. See, depending upon the format of the question, you have to follow the approach in airline industry, Kiran. You can simply prepare a statement of cost also, that is also fine. In one of the previous batches, I have discussed one question on airline industry also, so you can refer that lecture, Kiran. Now the question is asking us to calculate the fare per passenger kilometer. So for this we need to calculate the passenger kilometers also. So calculation of passenger kilometers. So here in total 40 kilometers we are traveling. Here in the average occupancy is given, that is on an average 40 passengers are traveling in each trip. So 40 into 3 trips in a day, into 25 days in a month, into 12 months in a year. So we have got 28,80,000 passenger kilometers. Fare per passenger kilometer will be 28,40,000 divided by 28,80,000. So 0.986. This is the fare per passenger per kilometer. If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post. Further, if the question is asking you to calculate one-way fare, very simple, guys. I repeat again, if the question is asking you to calculate the one-way fare, see, per person per kilometer it is 0.986. So if we want to calculate the one-way fare, see, per person per passenger is how much? Sorry, per passenger per kilometer it is 0.986. So if a passenger is traveling for 40 kilometers, if a passenger is traveling for 40 kilometers, so the one-way fare will be 39.44. एक पैसेंजर का एक किलोमीटर का कितना फेयर है 0.986. So if we multiply it with by kilometer, so we will get the one passenger fare one way, that is 39.44. If you want to calculate the round trip fare, it will be double, that is 78.89. So this is the way. This part is the key. So those who want to copy this part can please copy. Rest this table is there in the study material, but this part is the key. So I request you guys to please copy this part. In the meanwhile, those who have any doubts or queries can please post. Sorry. Okay, Kiran, I'll be covering this part. Don't worry. But those who want to copy this part can please copy. Giving you 2 minutes time. In the meanwhile, if you have any query, you guys can please post your query. Yes, Sayanto, Kiran Bala, Mallu, Preeti, any doubts? Okay, so there is a query from Kiran Bala, sir, why we are not taking the cost of machinery. See, Kiran, instead of the cost of machinery, we are taking depreciation. See, so I have already considered the cost. See, this cost of 10 lakh will be allocated in 2.5 years. So 10 lakh will be used for 2.5 years. That's why I have taken 10 lakh divided by 2.5 years. So there is a query from Mr. Kiran Kumar. In study material, two types of depreciation are given in page number 12.30, that is efflux of time and activity. So I'm explaining this part, Kiran. Let me discuss this with the help of an example. Let's say there is a machinery whose cost is, let's say, 7,20,000. Now, let's say the useful life is given in kilometers. Let's say the useful life is given in kilometers. Let's say the useful life is given total, let's say 3,60,000 kilometers is the useful life. The useful life is given, that is, sorry, a machinery, we can say better it is a vehicle, or we can say that is a bus. There is a bus that is given, that is 7,20,000 is the cost of the bus. And when talking about the useful life is given, that is 3,60,000 kilometers. It means the bus can run only for 3,60,000 kilometers. Now, during the year, the distance traveled is, let's say, 50,000 kilometers. During the year, the distance traveled is 50,000 kilometers. I repeat again, the cost of bus is 7,20,000. The useful life is given not in years, it is given in kilometers. So 3,60,000 kilometers is the useful life. And during the year, the distance traveled is 50,000 kilometers. So what will be the depreciation? 7,20,000 is my value of the bus, divided by useful life, that is 3,60,000 kilometers, and the distance traveled during the year is 50,000. So what will be my depreciation? That is 1 lakh rupees. So this is due to activity. So the depreciation is dependent upon what? The distance traveled, and the useful life is also given in distance. So very important, guys, this will form part of variable cost or running cost. It will not be treated as fixed cost. But let's say useful life is given in years. Let's say 10 years. So my depreciation will be how much? 7,20,000 divided by 10 years. So 72,000. So herein it will form part of fixed cost. It will form part of fixed oblique standing cost. So when talking about the terms that are used in study material, that is efflux of time, then it is, we can say it is efflux of time. And the second term, that is, if related to activity, we can call it as related to activity. So if it is more or less related to kilometers or running hours, then we call it as activity, and it will be a variable cost or running cost. And when talking about time, if the fixed time period is given, it will form part of fixed or standing cost. I hope your query is resolved, Mr. Kiran Kumar. Those who want to copy, that is what is related to time and efflux of activity, sorry, efflux of time and activity, can please copy. I'm discussing now one more question, the last question for transportation industry, that is example number 4. The question is from my material. So those who have not downloaded this material, I'm sharing the screen for your reference. So I request you guys to please take the screenshot. I request you guys to please take the screenshot of the question. So let's start with example number 4 of my material. A very good question. I think एग्जाम में ये क्वेश्चन 2 से 3 बार पूछा गया है. So let's start with example number 4. Global Transport Limited charges rupees 90 per ton. Global Transport Limited charges rupees 90 per ton for its 6-ton truck lorry load from city A to B. So if they are charging rupees 90 per ton for its 6-ton truck lorry capacity, and they are charging 90 per ton for city A to B. The charges for the return journey are 84 rupees per ton. No concession or reduction in these rates is made if the goods are delivered at intermediate station C. So I think there are 3 stations A, C, and B. A to B, and there is an intermediate station, station C. In January 2020, the truck made 12 outward journey for city B with full load, out of which 2 tons were unloaded twice at city C. So it means out of the total 12 journey, carrying with the full load, that is 72 tons, 12 into 6, 72 tons, 2 tons were unloaded twice. It means 4 tons were unloaded at city C and balance tons were transported to city B. The truck carried a load of 8 tons in its return journey for 5 times. So now they are talking about the return journey. So out of 12 journeys, in 5 journeys, they were carrying 8 tons and they were caught by police and 1200 rupees fine was paid. For the remaining trips, that is out of 12, for 5 times, they were carrying 8 tons. And for the remaining journey, it means remaining 7 journeys, for the remaining trips, the truck carried full load, that is of 6 tons, out of which the goods on load were unloaded once at city C. मतलब एक बार पूरा का पूरा जो है city C पे खाली कर दिया, but it returned without any load from city C to A. Okay, so the distance from A to C and city B are 140 and 300 kilometers respectively. Annual fixed cost and maintenance charges are 60,000 and 12,000 respectively. Further, the running charges spent during the January month is 2944. You are required to find out the cost per absolute ton kilometer and the profit for January 2020. Now, in this question, the key is to calculate the ton kilometers. That is the absolute ton kilometer, or we can say the weighted average ton kilometer. So let's start with first calculation of absolute ton kilometer. Now, let's present it in a diagrammatic way. That is, there are two stations A and B. There is an intermediate station C. So it is going from A to C and from C to B. And in return journey also, they are coming. In return journey also, they are coming from B to C and C to A. So A to C, C to B, B to C, again C to A. So when talking about the first part, it is given that the truck made 12 outward journey with full load. It means 12 outward journey with full load, and the capacity of the truck is 6 tons. So 12 into 6, the truck started with 72 tons from city A. The truck started with 72 tons from city A. So A to C total 72 tons traveled. Out of this, 2 tons were unloaded twice at city C. It means 4 tons were unloaded at city C. So out of 72, 4 were unloaded at city C. So it means the tons traveled from C to B is only 68 tons. 4 tons were unloaded at city C. So the tons traveled from C to B is only 68 tons. Now, when talking about the return journey, for 5 times they carried with so for 5 times they were carrying 8 tons. So from B to A, the total tons traveled for 5 times is 8 tons. It means what? 8 5s are 40. 40 tons were traveled from B to C and C to A. So 40 tons and 40 tons. From B, they started with 40 tons and it ended to A with 40 tons for 5 times in aggregate. But for the remaining trip, they are saying that they were carrying only full load, that is 6 tons. So from B, they started with 6 tons for 7 times, so total 42 tons. That is 7 into 6, 42 tons were loaded at city B. They went to C and then they went to A. But not all the time. Once they unloaded full 6 tons at city C and they were carrying the balance load, that is out of 42 tons, 6 tons were unloaded at city C. So they were carrying 36 tons only from city C to A. So the total tons traveled is how much? 76 tons from city C to A and 82 tons from B to C. Now I request you guys to read the question again carefully and try to see what the way I have solved, giving you 2 minutes time to post your queries. I repeat again, guys, very simple question. There are total 12 journeys. In 12 journeys, when talking about the onward journey, they carried 6 tons. So 12 into 6, 72 tons from A to C. But out of 72 tons, 4 tons were unloaded at city C. So it means only 68 tons were transported from city C to B. Only 68 tons were transported from city C to B. Now in the return journey, for the 5 times, they carried 8 tons. For the 5 times, they carried 8 tons above their capacity. And we are left out with 7 times, they carried 6 tons. But out of these 42 tons, they unloaded 6 tons at city C. So it means we are left out with how much? 42 minus 6. Only 36 tons were transported from C to A. Now, if you have any doubts in this part, you guys can please post your queries. Yes, Kiran Bala, any doubts? Mr. Kiran Kumar, Karthik, Nagma, any doubts? Khushi, Sushil Kumar. Yes, Preeti, any doubts? Sayanto, Mallu. So now we are ready with the tons now. That is the key. Now let's write the kilometers also. So when talking about the distance, it is given that the distance from A to city C is 140 kilometers. A to C, it is 140 kilometers. And A to B, it is 300. So it means C to B will be how much? 160 kilometers. So in return also B to C 160 kilometers and C to A 140 kilometers. So now we can easily calculate the absolute ton kilometer, that is A to C. It is 140 into 72. From C to B, it is 160 into 68 tons. From B to C, it is 160 into 82 tons. And from C to A, it is 140 into 76. So the total absolute ton kilometers will be 44,720. Now we'll calculate the cost statement, we'll prepare the state cost statement. Fixed oblique standing cost. Herein information is given that the annual fixed and maintenance charges are 60,000 and 12,000 respectively. So 60,000 is the annual. So 60,000 divided by 12, this will be 5,000. Running cost is given. That is 2,944. And maintenance cost is given. That is 12,000 divided by 12, that is 1,000. So we'll get the total cost 8,944. And the ton kilometers we have is 44,720. So cost per ton kilometer will be 0.2. Further, the question is asking us to calculate the statement of profit also. When talking about revenue, in the onwards journey, they started with 72 tons. No concession is offered if the goods are dropped at intermediate station C. So full fare will be charged, that is rupees 90 per ton. $90 into 72 tons. And for return, they are offering concessional fare, that is rupees 84 per ton for the total tons transported. Again, no concession if the goods are unloaded at city C. So 84 rupees into 82. So the total revenue will be 13,368 minus my cost, that is the total cost, that is 8,944, minus the penalty or fine, as it is a P&L account. So the penalty will be deducted. Further, any sort of abnormal cost or penalties by whatever name called will never form part of cost. We have discussed also कोई भी तरह की abnormal cost या abnormal loss will never form part of cost. But yes, while we have to calculate profit, we have to consider it in profit and loss account. So here in the fine paid is rupees 1,200. So it will be deducted while calculating the net profit. So my net profit will be 3,224. So the question is complete. If you have any doubt or queries, you guys can please post. Waiting for your queries. Further, I request you guys to copy the solution, giving you 2 to 3 minutes time to copy this part. In the meanwhile, whatever the queries you have, you guys can please post. I'm done with transportation industry. No more questions on transportation industry because I have to finish off everything in today. I mean, in this session only relating to service sector. So I'll be discussing one question on hospital, one question on hotel, and plus, if the time permits, 1 or 2 more questions. So I request you guys to copy this explanation, plus please post your query, giving you 5 minutes time. This diagrammatic presentation is the key. So I request you guys to please copy this part. Okay, so Preeti, when talking about this diagram, it's a part of, see here in the question is calculate. Just see the question first. See, the question is asking us to calculate. You are required to find out the cost per absolute ton kilometer and profit for the January 2020. So herein, this is the solution, and this will form part of working. So this diagram is a part of working note. Anyone else having any doubts or queries relating to transportation industry, then you guys can please post. If you want to cover, if you want me to cover anything from study material in relation to transportation industry, you guys can please post your query. There are few good questions in study material plus the past RTPs and plus the past practice manual. So I request you guys to refer RTPs and past practice manual again. The examiner can ask you anything. There is no end of service costing, just like marginal and standard. Again, if the examiner is like, I have to ask a difficult question, they can ask anything. So the key is try to solve as जितने ज्यादा क्वेश्चन हो सके आप सॉल्व कीजिए. Try to solve as many as questions possible. It will help you to develop concept and plus boost your confidence that yes, I can attend new questions also. So again, this chapter is very important from examination point of view. In every attempt, you'll find a question on service costing. So try to solve variety of questions. Lots of questions are given in study material, past practice manual, RTPs, MTPs. So yes, do refer all these questions because again, there is no end to this chapter. So try to solve as many as possible question as you can in writing. Again, specifically I'm mentioning in writing. So fine, there are no doubts on transportation industry. So let's take a break of 15 minutes. I'll be back after 15 minutes with one question on hospital and one question on hotel industry. And then let's see if the time permits, we'll discuss one or two more parts. Rest, it's like more or less, you can refer study material, the concept. When talking about the basic concept, it's very simple. The total cost divided by number of units. Units can be kilometers, unit can be room days, unit can be patient beds, it can be anything. So let's take a break of 15 minutes. We'll be back after 15 minutes with the remaining part of the chapter. Welcome back, guys. So I think there are no queries. So let's proceed further with the next part, wherein I'll be discussing one question on hospital industry. So I request you guys to please refer your study material. I'm discussing question number. I'm discussing illustration number 7 of the study material. I'm discussing illustration number 7 of the study material. So I request you guys to please refer the study material. So let's start with illustration number 7. A lodging home is being run in a small hill station with 100 single rooms. The home offers concessional rates during 6 off-season months in a year when number of visitors are limited. During this period, half of the room rent is charged. The management profit margin is targeted at 20% of the room rent. Sorry. The following are the cost estimates and other details for the year ending 31st March. Assume a month to be of 30 days. Occupancy during the season is 80%, while in off season it is only 40%. The total investment in a home is 200 lakhs, of which 80% relates to building and balance for furniture and equipment. Further, the details are given related to expenses. Now, annual depreciation is to be provided for building at the rate of 5% and furniture and equipment at the rate of 15% on SLM basis. Room attendant are paid rupees 10 per room day on the basis of occupancy of room in a month. Monthly lighting charges are 120 per room except in 4 months in winter when it is rupees 30 per room. You are required to work out the room rent chargeable per day both during the season and off season on the basis of the foregoing information. So let's start, guys, with this question. In this, no need to bifurcate that what are variable, what are fixed. You have to simply write all the costs. That's it. So let's start. When talking about the expenses, staff salary excluding room attendant, it is 5,50,000. Repairs to building, it is 2,61,000. Laundry charges are 80,000. Interior charges are 1,75,000. Miscellaneous expenses are 1,90,800. Depreciation is 5% on building and 15% on furniture. So when talking about the total investment, it is given that the investment is of 200 lakhs, of which 80% relates to building. So 200 into 80%, that is 160 lakhs, into the rate of depreciation is 5%. So the depreciation amounts to 8 lakh rupees. When talking about furniture, remaining 40 lakhs into the depreciation rate is 15%. So this will be 6 lakh. Now room attendant are paid rupees 10 per room per day on the basis of occupancy of rooms in a month. Now see, in transportation industry, we used to calculate passenger kilometer or ton miles. Herein, in case of hotels, we do calculate room days. That is the number of rooms that are occupied for the total number of days. So herein, in case of hotel industry, we will be calculating the room days. Room days means the total number of room occupied during a year. So herein, let's read the question once again. A lodging home is being run in a small hill station with 100 single rooms. The hotel offer concessional rate during 6 off-season month in a year when the number of visitors are limited. During the period, half of the room rent is charged. So herein the room rent is different for season and off-season. So herein we will calculate the room days for season and off-season. Total number of rooms are 100. When talking about season, there are 6 months in season and 6 months in off season, into 30 days in a month. When talking about the occupancy, it is 80% in season and 40% in off season. So see guys, when talking about 100 rooms, they are 80% occupied in season, and when talking about off season, there are only 40% is the occupancy, into 30 days in a month, into 6 months in a year, into 30 days in a month, into 6 months in a year. So when talking about the number of rooms occupied during the whole year, so it will be 14,400. And this will be 7,200. So this will be 24,600. So when talking about the number of rooms that are occupied during the whole year, it is 21,600. It means हमने 21,600 rooms का booking किया for a year. When talking about season, it is 14,400 rooms का booking किया for 6 months, and for 7 months, for remaining 6 months, we have booked only 7,200 rooms. So the total number of rooms that are sold in the year is 21,600. So this is the way we will calculate the number of room days. Now see, herein it is given that the room attendant are paid rupees 10 per room day on the basis of occupancy of the room in a month. So when talking about room attendant, we can easily calculate the amount paid to the room attendant. It is dependent upon the rooms that are occupied during the year. So herein, this is, let's say, working note number 1, working note number 2. Room attendant wages are dependent upon the rooms that are occupied during the year. And the per day is rupees 10. So 2,16,000. Now further the question is asking us that the monthly lighting charges, not the daily lighting charges, the monthly lighting charges are 120 per room, except in 4 months in winter when it is 30 per room. Again, it depends upon the occupancy. Again, it depends upon the occupancy. So herein, when talking about the lighting charges, again, we will prepare a working note. For season and off season separately, because it is given in the question that that except in 4 months in winter, when it is rupees 30 per room. Further, it is given in the question that you are required to room sorry, 1 second. So monthly lighting charges are 120 per room, except in 4 months in winter when it is rupees 30 per room. So we will assume that the winter is the off season. So herein, when talking about season and off season, we can count it as summer and winter. So summer, we will say that it is 2 months, and for winter it is 4 months. Because it is given in the question that 4 months is winter, so balance will be summer. And again for season, it will be 6 months only, that is summer. So let's calculate the room lighting charges now. See, total there are 100 rooms, 80% is the occupancy, into 6 months, and the monthly lighting charges are given, that is 120 rupees per room. Again, these are not daily. If the daily is given, we would have multiplied it by 30 days. But these are the monthly charges. So that's why I'm ignoring 30 here. Similarly, for here also off season, 100 into 40% is the only occupancy. For 2 months, it is 120 in off season. And for remaining 4 months, it is rupees 30 per room. So now let's calculate the total amount for the lighting charges. So it is 100 into 80% into 6. So this will be 72,000. So I repeat again, when talking about the lighting charges for the season, that is for 6 months, it will be 120. For off season also, for 2 months, it will be 120 because it is summers, but in winter, it is only 30. So when talking about the lighting charges, it is 72,000. I think we are done with the calculation part. That is, all the expenses are already considered. Now herein we have to calculate the revenue. It is given in the question. That is the first paragraph. That is the management profit margin is targeted at 20% of the room rent. So herein 20% of sales. So let's better calculate the total cost. In this, if we add profit, we'll get the total revenue. So herein, let's assume that the room rent is 100. So profit will be 20 and the total cost will be 80 because it is given that the management is targeting a profit of 20% on room rent, not on cost. They are targeting profit of 20% on sales. So herein, let's calculate the total cost. So 2 lakh, 29 lakh, 44,800 is the total cost. So the revenue will be how much? 29 lakh 44,800 divided by 80%. $36 lakh 81,000 will be get the total revenue. So this is what my total revenue. Now the question is asking us to calculate the room rent to be charged for during the season and off season. So herein it is given in the first paragraph, the home offer concessional rate during the 6 off-season months in a year when the number of visitors are limited. During this period, half of the room rent is charged. So in season, the full room rent will be charged, and in the off-season, the room charge will be half of the season. So 50% room rent will be charged. So let's calculate the calculation of room rent. So let's assume that the room rent per room per day is X in season. Therefore, in off season, it will be 0.5x. So room rent per room per day, it is X during season. So if it is off season, it will be 0.5x. एक रूम का एक दिन का रेंट जो है X है इन सीजन, तो ऑफ सीजन का होगा 0.5x. Now per day room rent is X, and when talking about the number of rooms in season is how much? 14,400. So the total revenue for the season will be 14,400x. एक रूम का एक दिन का रेंट X है. सो टोटल सीजन का रेवेन्यू कितना होगा? 14,400 इंटू X प्लस ऑफ सीजन का रेंट कितना है? 0.5x इंटू द नंबर ऑफ रूम्स. तो टोटल रेवेन्यू क्या होगा? 7,200 इंटू 0.5x. This will be the revenue for the season This will be the revenue for off season. And we have already calculated the total revenue for the year, that is 36,81,000. So now we can easily calculate the value of X, that is the room rent for the season. So this will be X value will be 204.5. That is during the season. And in off season, it will be half, 102.25. If you guys have any doubts or queries in this calculation, you guys can please post your query. When talking about the room rent for the season, it will be 204.5, and for the off season, it will be 50%. So it will be 102.25. I request you guys to please copy this part of calculation, because this is the key. The presentation is different from study material. So those who want to copy this part can please copy. This format is applicable only for transportation industry, Preeti. Yes, you can refer all the previous RTPs and MTPs, because again, there are no change in transportation industry, hotel industry, or hospital industry. Only new questions are added in the study material relating to ITs, insurance, stalls, educations, whatever it is. So the questions are same. So this is all what about hotel Just a second, guys. So this is all what about hotel industry. Now let's proceed further with hospital industry. Now, I'll be just giving you a brief about this question, illustration number 8. So ABC Limited runs a critical care unit in a hired building. CCU consists of 35 beds and 5 more beds can be added if required. So they have the capacity of 35 beds and 5 more beds can be added if required. The rent per month is 75,000. So there is a critical care unit which is on rent and the rent is 75,000. Now they have appointed 2 persons as supervisor. They are paying 25,000 per month. I'm discussing illustration number 8 of study material. So I request you guys to please refer illustration number 8 of study material. Further, the nurses are 4 persons and we are paying them 20,000 per month each. So the ward boys are total 4 and we are paying them 5,000 per month each. The doctors are paid 2,50,000 per month, paid on the basis of number of patients attended and the time spent by them. Further, the other expenses are given. I mean, they have bifurcated in fixed and variable. So that is repairs, food to patients, other services to patients, laundry charges, medicines, other expenses, administration expenses allocated, that is 10 lakh. Further, it is given that it was estimated that for 150 days in a year, 35 beds were occupied. So they are saying that for 150 days in a year, 35 beds were occupied. And for 80 days, 25 beds were occupied. The hospital hired 750 beds at a charge of 100 per bed per day to accommodate the flow of patients. However, this does not exceed more than 5 extra beds over and above the normal capacity of 35 beds on a day. You are required to calculate the profit per patient day if the hospital recovers on an average 2,000 per day from each patient. Further, you are required to find out the break-even point for the hospital. Now, herein, in transportation industry, we do calculate passenger kilometer, ton mile. In hotel industry, we calculate the room days. When talking about hospitals, we do calculate the patient beds. That is the number of beds that are occupied by the patient. So here in this case, we will first calculate the number of patient beds. And it is given, that is how many, the patient bed means what? How many beds were overall occupied during the year. So herein it is given in the question, says it was estimated that for 150 days in a year, 35 beds are occupied. So for 150 days in a year, total 35 beds were occupied. Further, it is given that for 80 days, 25 beds were occupied. For 80 days, 25 beds were occupied. Further, it is given that the hospital hired 750 beds extra at a charge of 100 per bed. So apart from these, they have hired extra beds. That is 750 extra beds. So when talking about the total number of beds that are occupied in a year, 150 into 25, that's 520. This will be 2,000. So total 8,000 patient beds. So this point is the key. Now, here in the question, in the second point is asking us to calculate the break-even point. That is the break-even number of patients who are I mean, the total number of break-even patients. I mean, कि कितने patients आए कि हमारा hospital का खर्चा निकल जाए. So when talking about this break-even point, I have already discussed in the previous session that what is break-even point? The point where there is no profit, no loss. When talking about how to calculate break-even point, fixed cost divided by contribution per unit. When talking about contribution per, how to calculate contribution? Contribution is sales minus variable cost. So when talking about the calculation of break-even patient, very simple, my fixed cost divided by contribution per patient. So we will get the number of patients. So now here, since we have to calculate the break even, okay, when talking about the contribution also, it is revenue minus variable cost. The total revenue minus variable cost. So here in this question, what we have to do, we have to bifurcate the cost in two parts. That is variable cost and fixed cost. अगर question में examiner, अगर question में break even point या ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं पूछता, you can simply prepare a statement of cost. But herein the question is asking us to calculate the break even point. So we need to calculate the sales, sorry, the revenue. Revenue we can easily calculate, that is 8,000 into the amount recovered. Thereafter we need variable cost, so that we will be able to calculate the contribution. This part I have already discussed in marginal costing. So the point is, since we have to calculate break-even point, we have to bifurcate the total cost in two parts, that is variable cost and fixed cost. Accordingly, we'll be able to calculate the contribution. So here all the information are given specifically कि क्या fixed है या क्या variable है. Still for your reference, I'm mentioning it this again. So rent per month, it will form part of fixed cost. Supervisor salary, it will form part of fixed cost. The amount that is paid to the nurses, it will form part of fixed cost. When talking about ward boy also, the amount paid to them will form part of fixed cost. Now the key, very important point, doctors are paid 2,50,000 per month and paid on the basis of number of patients attended and the time spent by them. So this 2,50,000 is dependent upon the number of patients attended and the time spent by the doctor. So this point is the key. It will be a variable cost. Now repairs are fixed, 81,000. Food to patient, it is given variable. Other services given variable. Laundry charges, it is given variable. Medicines, that is given variable. Other fixed expenses, these are fixed expenses. Administration expenses allocated, it will be again a fixed cost. Now very important, the extra bed that we have taken on hire, total 750 beds we have taken on hire, and we are paying a rent of how much? Rupees 100 per day. So again, it is dependent upon the number of patients and the days what the beds were occupied. So it will form part of variable cost. So nothing, guys, simply what you have to do, the revenue, that is 8,000 into, it is given in the question that they are charging approx 2,000 per day. So this is how we will get the revenue. Thereafter, we'll write down all the variable costs. So we'll get the total variable cost. We will get contribution. That is the revenue minus variable cost. We will get contribution. If we subtract fixed cost, we'll get the final profit. So this is my first answer. Now, when talking about the break-even point, the total of fixed cost divided by contribution per patient. That is the total contribution divided by number of patients. We will get the contribution per patient. So this is the way we will solve the question. So Mr. Kiran, I hope your query is resolved, that I'm considering the variable cost as well as fixed cost for the purpose of calculating break-even. So this is all what about hospital industry. If you guys have, I have just given you a brief about how to solve the question. Rest, nothing is like difficult. The key point is that you have to calculate the patient beds. Rest, it's simple. That is the total variable cost, total fixed cost, the total revenue, revenue minus variable cost, we will get contribution, contribution minus fixed cost, we will get profit. So if you guys have any doubts or queries in this part, you guys can please post your query. Further, it's like already 9:21. So you guys can ask whatever the queries you have for the chapters. Further, the remaining part that is given in study material, see, there are many more questions that are given in study material that is related to, one second, that is related to IT industry. Again, the concept is same. The total cost divided by number of units. The point is, yes, these questions are different, but don't try to get confused. The concept is same. The total cost divided by number of units. When talking about IT, it depends upon the number of hours worked by the IT professional. So it can be anything. So the question, I mean, the solution may differ from case to case, but the key is the total cost divided by number of units will get the cost per service. But yes, the 3 points that were a bit tricky. The first one was the transportation industry, the most trickiest part. Second one is the hotel industry that I've already discussed, and hospital industry. So these three are a bit lengthy. Rest you will find variety of questions on various industries. So you guys can refer study material. Still, if you find anything difficult, you can write a mail to ICAI. I'll try to address all your queries. So now, whatever the queries you have relating to this chapter, because it is more of a revision session. So whatever the queries you have relating to this chapter, I'm open to all the queries. You guys can please post your queries. Further, those who are over Zoom can directly speak to me, whatever the queries you have in this chapter. But yes, guys, the chapter is very easy, but you need to practice. The practice is the key. Try to solve as many as possible questions. I mean, examiner can ask anything. So the point is, stick to the concept, practice as many as questions as you can. It will help you to develop speed also, concepts also, and confidence also. So I'm open to all the queries. I'm open to queries. So Mr. Sayanto, Kiran, Mallu, Preeti, are you guys there? Any doubts, queries in this chapter?
No, sir, everything is clear.
Everything is clear. I think you were there in the previous batch also. You were able to solve all the questions of study material. I mean, that is, there are many other questions that are given in study material, Preeti.
Yes, sir. We can able to solve every questions.
Great. What about you, Kiran? All clear? Mr. Sayanto, Mallu. Okay, great, Kiran.
Yes, sir. All clear, sir.
Perfect.
Whatever you
Thorough
have
with the
done,
concepts
sir,
of marginal
practice.
and standard also. You are regular in this batch, so that's why I'm asking you.
Yes, sir. Been practicing your sums, sir. The both sums and all, and been revising all the concepts.
Yeah, a very good point. I mean, see, try to solve the questions what I have discussed in the class first. Try to solve once or twice. If you are not being able to solve the question in one go, try to solve it again. Try to solve these questions twice or thrice. Once you are able to solve these questions, you can solve any question. But the point is, again, apply the concepts rather than formulas. So you are able to solve all the question on standard and marginal, Sayanto?
Yes, sir. Till now, yes, sir. Been able to do it, sir. Till now.
Okay. Mr. Mallu, any doubts? You're not audible, Mallu.
No.
All okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, let me check who are over portal.
So, like all the sums, like everything we're learning in the class itself, whatever you're teaching nicely, sir, itself is being learned in the class, sir.
Thank you
So
so
it becomes
much.
much easier.
Yeah,
Thank you,
but
sir.
still, I request you, Sayanto, to
Yes,
refer
sir.
my previous session because I
Yes,
think I
sir.
have taken 3 to 4 sessions on marginal costing in the previous few batches, plus
Okay,
standard costing also. So, I mean, these are just the revision kind of, I mean, revisionary
sir.
lectures only. So, try to refer the sessions what I have taken in the past. I mean, you'll find variety of questions. I have put up many questions in class. So, try to solve these questions also. So, the more you practice, you will be thorough with the concepts, Sayanto.
Yes, sir.
Further, I mean, material costing also I have taken, so you can refer my sessions on material costing also.
Okay, sir.
See, when talking about Kiran Kumar, see, the question is clear that they have taken 750 beds on hire. These beds are taken from outside. So, bhai, it's very simple that if the beds are not occupied, हम लोग क्यों बाहर से bed मंगवाएंगे? They are called on demand. That if there is any demand, then we will call beds from outside. So, by default, we will assume that these beds are occupied, Kiran. Any doubt, Mr. Mohammed Satir?
No doubt, sir.
Yes?
No doubt, sir.
Okay, fine. I hope, Kiran, I hope, okay, great. So anyone else having any doubts? Nagma, Kiran Shukla, Khushi, Sushil, Komal, any doubts, guys? Kiran Shukla, I think you are requesting for this session of service costing. So I hope you are thorough with this part.
Yes, sir.
So fine, guys. I'm done for the day. One second, let me check if there are more queries. No. So thank you, guys. Thank you for your... Yes?
सर रिवीजन वाले सेशन कब होंगे?
Who is there on the line? Kiran, right? I think
Yes,
there is
sir.
one more session for the general questions that is on Monday.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Kiran. So thank you so much, guys, for your time and patience. Again, try to solve all the questions of service costing. There is one more revision class on Monday. So be prepared for that revision class. I'll be discussing a few questions that is relating to concept of equivalent production specifically that I was not able to cover in process costing, plus one or two questions on standard costing, one or two questions on marginal costing. So that's it, guys. Do prepare for your revision class. I mean, do revise what I have discussed till now in Saturday, Sunday, and then we'll meet on Monday with the last session. So thank you so much, guys, for your time and patience. Enjoy your weekend. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Have
you,
a nice
Have a
guys.
nice day, sir.
You too, guys. Yeah. Yes, Manish sir, done. Yeah, you too, sir.